And I would like to assign this purchase agreement over to you. Or I would like to assign this lead over to you for 25% referral. Okay. So now we're at the house and we've gone all the way through the house. Now we get to the kitchen table. Now, if it's an area where you don't feel comfortable, then you're going to meet them at a restaurant after you've gone through the house. Or if it's an area that you're incredibly uncomfortable in, you don't even go in the house. All we do is go up by and shoot the picture and send Kathleen out to meet them. So do you follow what I mean? That's because that's how we do business. But I've designed it so I don't have to go do that, okay? And if you're in certain areas where there is drug problems, or it's a war zone, or it's Vietnam or whatever, then you're going to go early in the morning to shoot your pictures because it's quiet. Okay? So in all the time I've been doing this business, I've only had 2 episodes. I had once in Detroit where I had a young lady with her hood up on a car that when we were riding by to look at the house, she wanted us to help her start her car, you know, and there was 2 young guys standing by the side, and we drove through, and we got halfway up the block, and they slammed the hood down and took off. So it was like a setup. And then once I'd been rammed from the rear when I was alone, where they rammed me with their car, wanting me to get out, and I just kept on going. I've gone into houses that had vagrants in the houses, and they were incredibly friendly vagrants, and I went all the way through the house and took all my pictures, and I left. And when I got back in my car driving away, I started to shake because I realized what I'd done. But you know, that was really stupid. So I really don't go in, and I've been in houses where, like, Roy and I were in a house one time and go, wow, the stove's on, wow, the lights are on, oh, wow, look, cell phone, and it works. So it's like, let's back out the front door. So I'm not going to put myself in those positions anymore. So back to, we're at the house, we've gone through the house with the people. When you're set to the restaurant, you want to hand the people the disclosure forms, the lead-based paint, and seller disclosure form, which is a requirement by law in the state of Michigan for them to fill out. Now, you're handing that to them because they don't know how to do them either, and you don't know how to fill your PA out because you're brand new at this. So that allows them to be looking at those forms while you're filling your PA out and playing with those. If you prepared your forms up ahead of time, all you really need to do is get the number. You sign that, get them signed. And we're usually, when Roy goes to tie up a house, we're in and out in 20 minutes. Now the reason for that is because what you're doing is you start thinking for yourself, I would never sell anything unless I read every document and every piece of information. I want the seller to see 2 pieces. I want them to see that they have like a 3 or 4 or 10-day rescission period. I want them to see on that purchase agreement that they can take this purchase agreement to an attorney or a realtor or their best friend, and if they choose to cancel the deal, they can cancel it. And I make it very clear, because when you start resisting stuff is when you get in trouble. So when I say, I want you to do this, there's not an issue. I also tell them that my buyer's buying this on a mortgage. So if I've got competition to this deal, like I'm telling them that my buyer's going to go get a hard money lender because he needs money to fix the house up. Don't forget, we're looking at ugly houses. So they understand that it requires a private lender to come in to do the deal. So now it's on a mortgage. So all I have to do is get denied for the mortgage. I don't need an escape clause. All I need to do is go to IRA and say, IRA, will you loan me this money? I need $4,000. I need $20,000 in rehab, and I'm only willing to pay 7% interest. That's the way I wrote my PA. And IRA says denied. So now the deal's dead. Okay? So I'm going to like hit some highlights on purchase agreements that are like, is there a purchase agreement back there? Can I get one? Okay, so is everybody with me? You're at the house, so you want to lock them up on a PA. So you want to use a buyer favorable purchase agreement. Our buyer favorable purchase agreement looks like a standard purchase agreement.
They have 3 days to rescission clause?
You get to say how that's going to be. So there's no way that we can get through all this, so I'm going to just hit you highlights on the purchase agreement that are key things that you want to have in your purchase agreement. So key things in my purchase agreement is on the possession, it says that, and I'm not going to read the clause to you, it says that I'm buying your property, and if it's vacant, I've got the right, I need a set of keys to it, and I've got the right to show this house for the point of finding a tenant or for the point of resale if I want, okay? So I gain access to the property. When I'm at the house, on the brokerage fees, I'm going to put 0 fees there because they're not going to pay any commissions. And if I have a broker that I have to pay, like say my broker may have done a good job of negotiating with my broker, I'm only going to give him $100 on the buy, then I put down a $100 brokerage fee paid by the purchaser or whatever. Key points on this is in paragraph number 8 on tax prorations. There are no tax prorations. In Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, taxes are prepaid. So if they have prepaid taxes on the property, I'm keeping those prepaid taxes. Now when Tony does this deal with the people and she's negotiated a price ahead, like the $7,000, like Roy's gone by and we know that's a good deal, she sometimes will actually review the entire closing package with the people and give them what's called a net sheet. And we have a net sheet with us that says, look, Mr. Seller, we're giving you $7,000, but you have a water bill of $500, that's going to be paid. You owe the title company $50, and this is really what you're going to get is $5,460. So a lot of people will say, yeah, I'm giving you $7,000, but that's not what they're getting. The purchase agreement's written for closing costs and other costs. So back to being really straight with people, you need to tell them what their net number is going to be, or a guesstimate on it. On our paragraph number 10, it says the closing would be held on or before, and usually if we're doing a loan, we could say that we're going to close it within 60 days or 45 days, or it could be 90 days. But then he says an additional period of 60 days, and sometimes we put 90 days in there, shall be allowed for closing to accommodate delays in title work, corrections of title defects, and I just go on to be able to buy myself an additional 90 days if I need it. So I'll point that out to them, because I'll tell them sometimes we'll get one buyer that doesn't go through, we'll have to put another buyer in place.
You put a date in that space?
We do.
Closing shall be held on or before?
We do.
Okay.
And one thing, at a later date, if you want, we do a complete one-day training just on purchase agreements. So, that's... And then on paragraph number 19, claim of interest. It's agreed and understood by all parties that the buyer may, at his or her sole option, file a registered claim of interest or memorandum of purchase agreement with the Register of Deeds for the county with which the subject property is located. In the state of Michigan, you cannot file a claim of interest against somebody's property unless you have a contract. The purchase agreement is a contract that allows you to file a claim of interest. I can now go out and sell my property on my website, and I don't have to worry about another investor going around me to do a deal. Do you follow that? Because I've clouded the title. I've gummed up the title on this property. And when I do my advertising agreements, it allows me to file a claim of interest against the property. It's in my advertising agreement. If I'm sending out a buyer to buy the property, I'm making sure that they're using a buyer favorable purchase agreement so that they have the right to file a claim of interest in my buyer favorable, buyer representation agreement I've signed with them allows me to file a claim of interest. You can't do business in the state of Michigan or without being able to do this because there's a few unscrupulous investors that will go around you. Okay?
What if you find out that the person sold the property already, and you don't find out till a month later? And you still file a claim of interest even though it's a done deal?
No, that'll do you no good.
An unscrupulous seller.
So you have to keep an eye on your properties, stay on top of them. To make
Yeah.
sure he sells it off.
Well, you're going to go record the claim of interest. Now, we're going to clout the title. Now, could they go sell it to somebody else? Could the title company not pick that up? Yes. Does that happen? Yes. Is there a shrinkage in this business? Yes. Do people get over on you? Yes. Do you cease doing business with them? Do you make the world aware of who they are? So we disclose. So those are like the key things that we do inside this. I also have a lender's restriction clause in there that I did put that in there to avoid mortgage fraud situations, because if I'm assigning this purchase agreement to an investor, that clause says that the investor is going to do everything according to the law. And it also says that both parties are going to disclose, if they're getting money back for rehab and that they're going to disclose that to the lender. So there's so much of that going on, we can't afford to. So I've put all the protection. So like this purchase agreement, if you look at the bottom of it, it says it was revised on 2/1/05. And it says that it's a BF form, which means buyer favorable. So, so this is what we use, and a lot of time and energy's gone into it, and it works.
So you have a seller favorable?
Our seller favorable is basically like an MLS form. It's not really seller favorable, it's just fair. I don't know. And the buyer favorable is fair too, because don't forget, we're telling the people exactly what they're going to net out of the property, okay? So that's the purchase agreement we're going to do. So when you go to the house, there's certain tools you need to have in this business. You need to own a digital camera, because everything's being done over the internet. And so when Roy goes out, he's got his digital camera. And you can buy a digital camera off eBay now, a used one, an older one. This one's probably, I don't know how many pictures this camera's taken, a jillion, and it still works good. So we've got like 2 or 3 cameras we use. I got a toolkit I carry in the trunk of my car. So once you get into this business, there's certain things you need to have. You need a nice steel flashlight for that, and you also need it for this, okay? So that's, it just has it's a better feel when you're going through an abandoned house or something, even if you're with somebody. And I don't go through houses anymore. Like now how I look at them is through a windshield. And then I'm going to find the investor to go find out how it is inside, okay? I don't want to do that. So the answer earlier is if you're in a tougher area that you don't feel comfortable in, don't do it. I will not go into tough neighborhoods unless I'm with another person. So you don't want to put yourself in harm's way in this business. So, or I'll send the other person down to shoot the pictures, or you make sure whoever you're with runs slower than you, So those are all keys. I got a screw gun, because you're going to go see board up houses, and you need to be able to get inside them. Then you're going to need more screws to screw them up, okay? So you're going to need to have a lockbox with you, because when you go to the house, you're going to want to get keys, right, from the people and put them in the lockbox so that you can send your investors out to look at it, and you want to take a set of keys with you. If the house is a blowout house, I've got eye bolts, so I'm going to put 2 of these in. Then I'm going to have it at the door jamb where the 2 meet, and then I'm going to put my padlock on it. The cost, this one was an expensive one, like $3 or $4. You can actually even buy them at the dollar store for $1. So then you're going to put your padlock on it, and then if somebody's in the house, or if somebody is, another broker's there, and they've got the same kind of deal with a combination lock, or somebody's changed something, but I need to get in and see the house, I'm going to call them, and I have bolt cutters in my trunk. I'm going to cut the other padlock off, put mine on, call them, and give them the new combination. I'm not going to drive to a house and not get inside to see it. And then you're going to have hammer, nails, right? And then you can actually twist a knob right off on doors, and there's a lot I've got some other stuff where you slide in to loosen up the locks, so you got all your tools, because when you're there, you want to get into the house, okay?
You ever get stopped by the police, they're not sure you're a realtor or a second story guy?
Exactly, yeah. But I want to get into the house, I'm not out there not to get into it. I'm not out there to violate the law either, so those are the tools you need to have in this business. And it's not a lot of tools, right? So does anybody ever go out and look at a lot of houses? I know, so do you have tools? Okay. Has there been times you've gone there and couldn't get in and stuff? So, yeah. Yeah. I get incredibly upset if I can't get into a house and I've gotten the okay to get into it.
I mean, I've actually had a situation where I've gone to a house like 3 or 4 times and couldn't get in.
Yeah.
That's just really challenging.
So That's what, so when you've got a go ahead.
Is the PA the form that gives you the right to access the house? I mean, how do you?
Well, if I was working with an REO agent, a real estate agent, working for the lender, and they sent me to a house, and somebody's already changed his combination lock, so he can't get back in. See, investors go there, it's like it's a VA house, so let me just break the key off in the lock so I can make sure my bid's the only one that gets it. So that's how other investors are thinking. So sometimes they've gummed up the works for you because they don't want you to get in the house. So, let me use my bolt cutters, so.
Right, but how do you prove that you have?
I call the realtor up and let them know I'm putting a new combination lock on there. Or I talk to the owner, or I tell the owner, do you know your house is open? Somebody's kicked the door in, so I'll put a couple eye bolts and a combination lock on there for you. So it's really doing them a service.
There was a house we couldn't get into because the rain caused the wood of the door to fall up and it wouldn't open. Called the building, what I said. He had to bust the window.
Right. So then you've got to have all your forms with you when you go out there. That's the other tools. So this is our advertising agreement. I'm not even going to attempt to get into it, but it looks like a purchase agreement, doesn't it? It's got a lot of clauses in there, so it's complicated. Now, if I'm dealing with somebody and I'm in there and I'm telling them, look, you owe me no money if you sell the property, but if I send somebody by, you owe me money. Sometimes I just write that on the back of it and they're happy with that and we both initial it and then we sign the agreement. So in our purchase agreement, as long as you're showing them the part about the attorney and telling them they've got some time in that, they're not going to resist it and you can get your agreement signed and get on the road.
What's the fair fee for the advertising?
I grab it out of the air. If I'm dealing with an investor, a frugal person, then I may go as low as $1,500. I may go try for $2,400. I may try for $5,000. I have advertising agreements for $10,000. So it's whatever I feel comfortable with. They want to get their $7,000 for that duplex, so they probably wouldn't have a problem with you going up to $5,000 for an advertising agreement. If they do, then you reduce it, because I've got my buyer signed under a buyer agreement that he's going to pay me anyway. So I could collect from both parties. So what are your advertising agreements at, Denise?
Most of them are about $3,000 to $4,000.
$3,000 to $4,000. What are yours at?
Around $4,000.
$4,000. Anybody else doing advertising agreements in the room? Okay.
You need to be a licensed agent for an advertising agreement?
Ours are through a real estate company, but you could do that in conjunction with us, like if you wanted to go out on our website. But we would want to sign the agreement. But you could have them sign and then send a copy back. Yep. And the advertisement agreement is just something we created. We just made it up. And then I went and met with the owner of Middleton Real Estate School and said, here's what we made up. Am I in trouble? And then she made changes to it, and then we sent it to the state to make sure we're not having a problem. And so it's just another form. It's like we're like our own little MLS, multi-list service, and people are signing advertising agreements. They're not commission, they're flat amounts. That's not to say if you were looking at a $100,000 property and you thought, 6%, $6,000, yes, my flat advertising agreement is $6,000. I'm not sure that people would think that way or not, but they're all flat dollar amounts for advertising. So, and then we put them out on the website, and somebody comes in and wants to buy it, then I can send that person over. And if they negotiate, they're advertising their house for $20,000, but that person negotiates a buy price at $10,000, the seller owes me my $3,000 advertising fee, and I have a claim of interest filed against the property. If the buyer comes up with their own buyer and it's not ours, then I'm going to release my claim of interest. But I'm going to find out who the buyer is to make sure it isn't somebody we sent out. So
Record it right away?
We record the claim of interest right away. And we take down an extra copy and get a time-stamped copy so that if we need to send it to a title company or send it to somebody to let them know, we can.
So where do you file a claim of interest?
At the Register of Deeds in that county.
Where do you get a timestamp?
With the Register of Deeds. If you bring an extra copy, they'll timestamp it for you. For the sake of covering everything we need to cover in this seminar, I'm gonna have to I won't be able to answer all the questions, but I'll stay after and answer as many questions as possible, okay? So we've got in our toolkit, we've got a regular listing agreement as a realtor with all the stuff we need. We got the claim of interest, but that's not with us. You can record your claim of interest later because you've got the right by contract. We've got our advertising agreements. Sometimes if you're meeting with somebody that doesn't want you to disclose anything, they want to meet with you, they might sign something. If you bring them a buyer, they don't want it on your website, we might sign a confidentiality non-disclosure agreement. We might sign a one-party seller listing with them where we can bring them people, but they don't want it on the website. So we got forms for whatever meets the circumstances. Okay.